This video is by Straight Goods News, SGNews.ca.
Of course, was charged with a variety of things in light of that explosion a few years back. I wanted to just get your immediate reaction to the fact that Public Works, a huge department of the government, has been charged with the death.
Okay, first of all, I'm absolutely delighted that public prosecutions proceeded with this charge. I don't know if you're aware, but back in 1988, I was the first Chief of Enforcement for Environment Canada. My greatest victory was convincing Justice Canada that the Crown is bound and therefore public departments and entities, ministers, officials should be charged. So this is consistent with the direction that public prosecutions have gone, and good on them for proceeding with these. I hear Public Works has pled guilty, so they should. The findings are absolutely reprehensible. That none of these officers running this boiler plant that exploded had ever received training in safety or avoiding hazards. Absolutely reprehensible. You know, daily the private industry is castigated. This is, if any department in the government of Canada should be setting an example in the training and safety and the protection of its workers, surely it should be Public Works and Government Services.
And then on top of the sentence and the guilty plea, the unusual step that Public Works was actually placed on probation.
Absolutely. You know what? It's unheard of. I have never heard of that before. Clearly the judge found this action to be reprehensible, and that, as I understand, they're looking into detail of what actually happened, how little training was provided, and across the government. And a good thing to keep in mind is, I noticed in the article that was written, is kind of a caustic statement, which is what I used to be told back in the 1980s, and that's why would you prosecute the government? It comes out of one pocket into another. No, that is not the case. We have a very important provision in Canadian law, and it's that the Crown is bound. And what that means is, when a Crown entity or employee or a minister or a director violates a federal law, they too can be prosecuted. They're held accountable. And so, in fact, in most statutes, and it would be good to look into the statute, our environmental laws in Canada have been majorly changed, including by this government. So we have innovative sentencing. So in fact, they could be ordered to deploy a major training program across the board.
So I was going to ask you that question. Is this, how precedent-setting is this then in your mind?
Well, I think it's incredibly precedent-setting, and I think the first thing that should happen is the minister should stand up in the House tomorrow and apologize.
Right. And on top of that, if you think bigger picture, this is just one isolated incident. Public Works has thousands of employees across the country. You know, they're even fixing the Parliament buildings right now. Are these workers at risk?
Well, I guess it kind of raises the question, too, of what's going on the Hill. I mean, I think that we will expect a major investigation and report back as quickly as possible on, is this the general rule across the board with Public Works?